Alright, welcome back to the Chinese martial arts poetry series. We're now going to be going over the applications for the next 5 movements for videos 6 through 10. So first is grass sparrow's tail, also known as a pong lu ji an in their components. So we talk about pong lu ji and an from Yang style Tai Chi, and those are the movements of grass sparrow's tail. So the applications are like so. I'm going to demonstrate them in a way that may not have been explained before by other people. I'm basically not going to be giving the typical response for each of these applications. I'm going to show them as kind of like a combo. So my partner here, he's going to have his guards up, and I'm going to essentially use pong as my attack. So I meet his guard. This is essentially my pong. I'm using it as my bridge because I want to get to him, and I want to get to a place where I can stick so that I can use my sense of touch to feel what's going on. Then as I get to Lu, I'm going to direct this down, and now I've opened him up so that that other hand can come. This is where Lu comes in. So you can see that in the way that I showed, this little bit of a dive down is actually opening him up on purpose to hit me with the other hand. So as I meet him, I direct this down, and then that's obviously going to come next. So I take that and then drag it downwards. But next is G. So as I drag him down, my next idea here is to essentially use this to smash his face. And you can see how I made myself behind his foot there. I could even take this into a trip. It's very easy how that can work out. So we make our bridge, and then he goes to attack, and then this smashes into his face. But let's say that didn't work, so I didn't get the smash off. So the way that he would, at least in this idea, get out of that after we get through all of these movements here, for here, as I go for G here, he's going to lift upwards to try and deflect my power upwards, and then from here, I go to an. So the an is after we get to here, as we talked about an and how it applies. Right, so as he lifts me, an is the tug of war, is the idea that I pull him downwards so that he'll start to pull backwards. And then as he starts to pull backwards, if I just let go, there's a movement backwards, right? So I just assist him. So all together is the bridge, and then open him up for the armbar. So the armbar can either be a break here, or you can be nicer and just drag him, smash him in the face with this as he starts to lift, right? I can come under down, or if he even wants to throw in that other hand as he lifts, right, I can get both of these, and then I can smash this into his face. And then I think it would be criminal not to talk about the poetry of grass sparrow's tail now that I have an opponent here. So if we're taking into account like push hands type work, right? So we're in push hands. The idea of grass sparrow's tail is again that idea that you need to be light so that if a sparrow lands in your hand, it should not be able to take flight, because sparrows, as they take flight, they jump off to get that momentum to come up, and then they fly away. But if you were to have a sparrow in your hand, it should be so soft that as the moment you feel them start to push, it should cause you to yield. So they should always fall back into your hand as they try to take off. So this doesn't mean I'm going to be so soft that he can just push me over, right? Because that would not be good for any kind of martial dealings. But I need to not give him my strength, right? So if I give him my strength, right, I start to tighten up. You can see I become very tight, very rigid. So I want to be soft as he starts to push on me, right? I'm soft, I yield. If he goes to push me here, I yield. If he goes to push me here, I yield. If he wants to push me lower, I yield. If he wants to push me up, I yield. It should become to a point where you become very sensitive to changes in motion, and then you use those changes in motion against him. So that's grass sparrow's tail, the first one, the 6th video in the series. Next we have the drunkard's barrel. So drunkard's barrel, as I discussed in the video, we were going over a specific way to use the barrel in that, like a specific technique, but we're going over the concept of the barrel and why it's important. So the barrel is the idea that it always comes in twos, and you're connected. This is our pong in Drunkard. This is the concept of having this barrel. So if he goes to clash with me here, he tries to press in on me, I can't let this barrel be crushed because I will lose my structure. So there needs to be pong there, right? So there needs to be good pong there. But the drunkard's never going to let you feel his pong. The difference would be if he presses on my barrel, right? I tilt my barrel so I get him here. So again, he can press on me here, and then my barrel tilts to get here. Or he can attack at me, right? And then this is my barrel. So in this case, right, he attacks, my barrel strikes like so. And again, like I said in the video, it's not a 1 and then 2, but it's 1. And then, right, from where we were here, after we finished the application, we were right here, then you just follow straight up. You can even turn that into a choke on the way out. And then if he attacks low, I can use this barrel to draw low and then strike high. Or if he strikes high, I can turn the barrel up and then use this as my barrel to crush him downwards into woodcut or binds of wood. So I'll go over slowly the couple of different applications again. So he comes high, right, boom, and then roll downwards. Or he strikes low, low, and then can come back up. Or even I can go low and then strike behind the back of the head with the elbow, because drunkards love their barrel rolls. And then he can attack, come from the side, boom, right? Or the same way, it could come here. And a way that we always think about in pungens, also there's collagen, so we can come around here, I strike here, I strike with my body, with my back, in order to give him a little bit of like a jump, so he's a little bit off balance, and then I follow after that. So it can be, he comes, right? Right, you okay?
Yeah.
So you give him that little bump before you finish it. So that's drunken barrel movements. Next we have the Mantis enters the cave. So this movement, so the idea of the cave, if you face the camera and you hold your arms and legs separated, so anywhere where there's like a hole. So here's a hole, here's a hole, here's a hole, here are holes. Those are called caves. But now if he bends a joint here, here's a hole, right? Anywhere where there's bends or something where something can go through. So if he has his arm here, I can stick my arm through this cave. Now if I want to stick my arm through that cave, I can turn and we get something like that, right? So this is the idea, is entering caves that essentially destabilize the opponent or ruin their bridge with you. So for this movement here, the main thing is I go here, I direct towards that direction, and then I strike towards this cave or more to this groin, while I enter my body under this cave, then I'm free to smack the back of the head, where the combination would come here and then, right, very Mantis looking. So again, I enter the cave, and then strike the back. Yeah, that's the idea. Just play around with different caves. You can even use this movement to use as a single leg takedown, right? Any kind of thing. Just find the caves in your opponent and just experiment and see what happens when you stick your hand over here, right? Then next we have Tiger Descends a Mountain. So this is a short and sweet one. This one is found, as I said, in both Bagua and Shiniloha. So there's this movement here. And then Bagua is kind of done as you're walking a circle. But the idea here, as we talked about in the poetry, was the idea of the tiger mindset and then hunting your opponent. So I'm not going to square up to this guy and be like, right? I'm not going to fight him like a human fights. It's just I'm a tiger, right? I'm going to, right? I hunt him. So show what happened there, right? So I don't care about this, right? I want this. This is what I'm going to eat. There's not enough meat on this. I want this, right? So let's just get out of the way. This smacks on the way through, right? This is attacking the ankle. This attacks the knee. This attacks the hip. shoulder, elbow, groin, head. All at once. So done slow, right? So he attacks, boom. And all 7 stars hit at the same time. So yeah, it's very much like a tiger. He's not going to look at a human as a fighting partner. He's going to look at you and be like, I want to eat you. Okay? So he attacks, right? And just eats. And of course the technique doesn't stop there. The technique, this particular technique stops there, but you don't stop there. You just keep hunting. That's the idea of the tiger. So hunt. So you just keep coming. Doesn't matter how he reacts, just keep going. Then lastly, we have the 10th video, needle dance to sea bottom from Young style Tai Chi. So this one is one of the ones that people look at as like, oh, what the heck is that for? And it's kind of different from most of the other Tai Chi movements because it brings you down like this. And then the Chen variant that I showed you, punch the earth. We're going to look into how those apply here. So typical chin ah type stuff. So he goes to grab my wrist. So the typical one for needle dance to sea bottom is this small wrap here. So it doesn't look like much to the person who doesn't know what this is. It looks like a lot to the person who knows how it feels. But to go over in specific, it's like a cross wrist grab. I have a brilliant idea, but before even that, make sure he can't let go so that he can't have a brilliant idea. And in a perfect world, I'll get this arm to a 90-degree bend because this is going to make it more painful for him. And then I simply rev his arm like a motorcycle. So I essentially just point downwards on him. I make sure this point doesn't move. I don't press down here, but I roll over, keeping this locked in place. So that's the movement, right? And of course, you don't see someone just like, I'm gonna fight you, and then he just grabs your wrist, right? So you might be squaring up. I was like, right? Or nobody does this, right? Nobody just does that. This is the idea. Chin-ah is not just I go grab him and then I do a tool lock, right? We're engaged, right? And then he grabs, right? Right? Or he might attack me, right? Or I grab. Or I might attack so that I can get this here and then I can grab, right? So I can either defend, right? I can grab, or I can attack so that it becomes my grab. Basically, just make his arm go to you so you're not, fishing for his arm because he'll figure that out, right? If he has his guards up and I just try to go like this, trying to hook his arm, he knows what I'm trying to do. But if I go for his face, right, he's going to block that, and then it's like, okay, cool, now I have this, right? You don't want to just let him understand what you're doing. So this is it come into play where I go to him and he just grabs me, right? And then, cool, right? And even before that, I can give him a good pop so that he has something to think about, and then come into here, and then point down. And another way we can look at this is he goes to attack, and I go into an arm bar. So with this, you simply lock this in place in relation to your body, and then you dip forward in the way that we bend our hips back. So that way our weight's going into the opponent, not our arm strength. Because if he goes, I try to do this with arm strength, and he tries to resist, right? Right? He's pretty strong. If I just lock this to my body and then use my body, very easy. This is bigger than this. Everybody knows that. And then Chen punch the earth to round things off. This one is one of my favorites. So a couple of different applications for it. One more hitty. So he has the guards up, and I'm going to punch through, and he's trying to block this, right? So he's blocking it currently based on where it's going, which is in a straight line toward his face. But then I arc downwards. So this essentially comes boom, right over the top. You can see what happens, right? So he goes to block, and then because he's resisting in a particular way, because he knows my force is coming a particular way, I change the force. So now it gets him here. But let's say that he's even better than I expected, and he follows it, right? And now I turn again. So it's 1, 2, 3. So he goes to block here, and then snake right under it. it'll end up looking something like this, right? You can see how it just snakes its way in. So that's the more hitty application. The more grappling application. So he goes to throw a punch, and I'm being bold, going right up here on the inside gate, and then I weave my way down, and then I get to here. The next movement in the form after this is here. So I get from here, and I come up under him. I can either do that, or just grab the leg itself, start to pick him up, no matter where I want to position myself. I can even go for the other leg, right? Right? Pick him up. Okay?
Yeah.
Make sure you train good alignment and structure before you try lifting, because it could be bad for your back if you don't have proper structure. But that's the applications. So that's for the movements for the poetry series 6 through 10. I'll see you in the next video.